Hi, everyone. This is Lisa Rosenthal from Reproductive Medicine Associates of Connecticut. I'm the patient advocate here, and I am delighted to be joined tonight to discuss when perfect strangers become your best friends. And I'm here tonight with two women who have had a tremendous impact on peer support and infertility over the years. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So, Betsy, can you go ahead and introduce yourself, please, and where you come from?
Sure. This is Betsy Campbell, Director of Constituent Engagement for Resolve, the National Infertility Association, which gives me the honor of working with the amazing volunteers who deliver Resolve's programs and services, including our support groups, helpline, walks of hope, and our grassroots advocacy. We rely on more than 900 volunteers who contribute more than 50,000 hours a year to provide a strong community for those struggling to build a family, and that includes more than 250 support groups across the country.
That number is astounding, 5,000.
It is.
It really is. It's astounding. And Sue, would you introduce yourself, please?
Certainly. I'm Sue Johnston from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I am the author of Detours, Unexpected Journeys of Hope Conceived from Infertility. I also am an infertility advocate, and I have been trained by Resolve to lead a peer support group here in Brighton, Michigan.
Excellent. Well, and we came together this evening because we do have these things in common: peer support, what it means to people who are struggling with infertility, and the sense of isolation that often comes along, which is how the title came about, When Perfect Strangers Become Your New Best Friends. And we're going to go into that, obviously, a little bit more. Betsy, can you share with us sort of the bigger picture about how peer support works? How do people become leaders? What kind of training? What kind of commitment? And that kind of thing, in case there's anybody out there, hopefully, who is interested.
Oh, happily. So, first of all, Resolve started as a support group, literally around the founder's kitchen table. So support is at the heart of everything that Resolve does. And studies have shown that patients who get support have better outcomes. So we'd love to see support groups in every zip code. There are already so many obstacles on this journey, and finding support should not be one of them. So it's very easy to become a support group leader. All it takes is to volunteer to become one. We don't expect you to be an expert, to be a counselor. It's your personal infertility journey that qualifies you to lead a support group. Our volunteers include those who have reached resolution and also those who are still on their journey. And we provide training online and individually over the phone, and we provide continuing education and resources throughout your time as hosts, and we provide opportunities to connect with other support volunteers to share ideas and issues so that our support groups hosts also feel supported.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that, Betsy, because I was speaking to Lisa Schumann, who is our Director of Mental Health Services at RMA and she was reminding us that of the wonderful differences. This is not group therapy. This is peer support. Right. And I think that Sue is probably going to be able to really go into that, what that means, because again, not group therapy, and right. None of us, or rarely are we mental health professionals, but even if we are, that's really not the role that we play when we facilitate or work within a peer support group. The only thing that group therapy and peer support group have in common is group. Mm-hmm. So thank right. you, Betsy. Sue, I asked you to identify 3 different things that really were your most important things that you wanted to say. So I'm going to let you go ahead and talk about that.
Sure. Well, I feel like I'm going to switch them up a little bit because we've been talking about support, so I'm not going to share my 3 things with you in the order that I wrote them to you, but just in keeping with the bonding and the support of total strangers, I think it's so important to identify your trying to conceive sisterhood, because that was my lifeline. And that is what really made me want to write my book, is because I met these women when I was in the thick of my battle and I was going through infertility, and I walked into a group of total strangers and I felt like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to join this club. I want to get pregnant. I want to quit, and I want to just be done with this. But what I learned was these women were dynamic, they were intelligent and articulate, and they knew what was happening. And I learned so much about them through their journeys and what they would tell me about my own body that I didn't understand, or reproductive endocrinologist and a new treatment that was available, and and just being there for one another, to hold your hand or to help you if you're getting some kind of. My husband was at sea all the time. He was an officer in the Navy and was out to sea for 6 or 8 months at a time, and you'll have to read about that in the book because it's pretty difficult doing this when you're with your spouse, but when your spouse is gone all the time. So some of them would give me the trigger shot, or some of them would give me injections, and you just can't. There are so many resources in the way of fertility support online and whatnot, but when you are physically in proximity with somebody through Resolve and they can hold your hand, there's nothing else like it. So that's kind of what I want to say about that. I mean, do you find that to be true, Betsy? I mean, have you worked with this organization forever? I mean, going on the walk of hopes and just being there for one another.
Absolutely. We have found that there is just no substitute for in-person support and being in a room with others who just get it. We hear that all the time. And even with so many online resources, we're seeing an increased demand for in-person support for just those reasons.
Exactly. So that is one of the things that I wanted to get across in my appearance here today, is just to tell you that there's, you've got to find, you can't go through this alone. This is an overwhelming disease that you're battling, and you need somebody to connect with. So find your group of sisters, okay, and brothers too. So this is for everybody. And the other thing that I really felt that was unique about my book was that each one of us has our own outcome. Was our resolution our first choice? No. Our first choice would have been to get pregnant and have the choice of having as many children as we wanted. But we have outcomes that we didn't anticipate, but we've embraced, and we end up being very happy with the situation that we have. And there's so many ways to build your family. In our book, there's a chapter on just about, covers the gamut of assisted reproductive technology. We have a chapter on donor egg, we have a chapter on surrogacy, one on multiple miscarriages, one on PCOS, male factor, unexplained infertility, international adoption, child-free living. That chapter has been really well received by everybody because, we wonder if that's going to be us. And so each one of us got through our journey, our challenges, and got to the other side and found unexpected blessings along the way, that now that we can look back at it, it was too hard for us during the process to talk about it or think about it or write about it, but now we can really see. So that's another thing. What do you think, Lisa? Have you found that to be true?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, here at RMACT, we've created a support group in 3 out of 4 of our offices that we call Ladies Night In. And, as we're sitting here, as the 3 of us are sitting here, we're all kind of going like this. We're nodding.
Yeah.
And what we the things that happens when you're in person is, as you're speaking and you're telling your own unique story, but there are people in the room who relate to it.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there nodding, and they're not judging you, and they're not pitying you, and they're not, thinking that you're crazy or calling you crazy. And there's something very reassuring about saying something that might even feel a little bit embarrassing or shaming, or that you feel guilty about, and everybody in the room goes like this, yeah, we get it.
We
So
get
yeah,
it.
absolutely.
Been there. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Agree.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And the last point is that I feel that I have to share this little snippet. When I published the book, it was right around the time, it came out in March. April was Infertility Awareness Week through Resolve, and May was Advocacy Day. And I thought, well, since I wrote this book, I have to go to Advocacy Day to see what that's all about. Now, I'm a former elementary school teacher, and I love to write. I taught reading and writing and literacy, so that's probably another reason I wrote the book. But when I got to Washington, D.C., I found out that our state of Michigan was given the grade of a D for fertility support. And as a teacher, I was just like, no, that won't do. We can't do that. I've got to do better. So I decided to come back and create a support. I think I talked to you right then and there, Betsy. I said, I want to do that. I'm going to be starting mine as soon as I possibly can get back. That really motivated me. And since I went to Advocacy Day, I also started my own line of greeting cards, because I feel like there's just not enough support out there, and I call them infertility and friendship cards. I have a dozen of them, but I thought I'd just read a couple to you. This one has a little and a mama elephant and a baby rhinoceros, and it says, I don't have mama's eyes, but I do have mama's heart. And there's a little animal adoption agency up there. I know. And then inside it says, congratulations on the adoption of your beautiful baby. And I just felt like, this one, I'll share one other. This one is, it's actually my little pup. And it says, I hope their infertility meds work this time, and the pup's in the high chair. And then on the inside it says, good luck on your upcoming procedure, sending warm and fuzzy thoughts your way. So I feel that advocacy has empowered me to not only help the infertile person, but also those who don't know what to say or don't know what to do for their loved ones that are going through infertility.
Absolutely.
So it's a very empowering thing to get involved as an advocate and a peer support leader.
And
yes.
It's a wonderful point, and I know this is a little off script, but empowering our fertile friends who are mainly well-intentioned and often say things that hurt us tremendously.
Exactly. Yeah.
And to be able to give them, instead of just being angry or instead of isolating ourselves from them, to be able to give them some language that is helpful, that is kind, that feels soothing. I love the cards, and of course,
thank you.
Thanks a lot, Sue, for making me kind of,
You can see all 12 of my cards on my website too.
Excellent. And we'll make sure that we share that information before we leave. So I am going to go ahead and just talk a little bit about Ladies' Night In at RMACT, which is exactly fashioned on the Resolve support groups. And we started this in-house because we had a patient population with a big need, and our Ladies' Night In, they're free, they're open to the public, and they're very well attended. And what I always find interesting, what I often say in these groups is the reason that they're necessary, and I'm going to say this, necessary and vital, is that very often with infertility, our regular support systems are not in place. We are not necessarily speaking to our best friends, our parents, or even our partners sometimes, maybe certainly not our colleagues. There is something that makes us go underground about this a bit. And I personally feel that, some people are very open about it, and that's what they're comfortable with, and not everybody is. And often, and I was listening to you, Sue, often the longer it goes on, often the less open you want to be with your fertile friends, because then it turns into a question and answer, and it feels like an intrusion in privacy. So really, this is what happens, is that we make new friends. And as Sue said, sort of identifying your tribe of folks trying to conceive. I'll tell you a little story. When I was at Night of Hope, wonderful evening, Betsy. Oh, you guys should be so proud of yourselves. What a beautiful evening.
I so wanted
Thank
to
you
be
so much,
there.
Lisa.
I really, that's
Next
on my bucket list.
Next year, Sue, we'll get a seat for you next year.
Okay.
But as I was there, I got a photo from two women who had met in Ladies' Night In, and they were both on horses. One has a bunch of horses. Hi, you all know who you are out there. I think you're listening. And the other one had said, gee, can I come over and ride? And the two of them are on the horses. And I can tell you that if you looked at them, you wouldn't see sad, depressed, upset, infertile women. What you saw was big, beaming smiles, because they really had transformed an experience that none of us want to have. We don't want to have infertility. We would much rather have hot sex. I'm just going to say it. We'd rather have hot sex with our partners and get pregnant. But they transformed the experience into something that truly was healing and beautiful. And I'm going to say it, fun. They had fun. So that's one of my points, is that with your usual support system not in place, it's time to find a new one. Yeah. And we have a Mommies After Infertility group that has been going on so that some of these children are 5, 6, 7 years old. Mm-hmm. And the love and attention, I mean, I always joke, if you post at 1:14 a.m. that you're having a procedure the next day, at 1:16 a.m. you have it's amazing. It doesn't matter what time of the day it is. It's just amazing. The other point that I wanted to say is that if I could encourage those of you who are sitting out there saying, I don't do support groups. I don't do groups. This isn't for me. I would ask you, and Sue, this was part of your point too, open heart, open mind. Try it. With your last ounce of courage and strength, drag yourself to one of these meetings. Even if you sit there with your arms crossed the whole time, I would defy you to be able to come to Ladies' Night In and not laugh at least once, because we do crack a lot of jokes.
Right. And
some of those jokes are a little bit, off key, I'll say. We've been known to drop the F-bomb a few times. But, just try something new, because it can open up a world. And it's frequent that we feel very isolated with infertility, and it's a way of combating that isolation. Those were really the points that I wanted to cover. One of the things that I say is, infertility is hard enough, but going through it alone is unnecessary. So that leads us to Sue. I'm going to jump in here and ask Betsy, and I'll come back to you about writing the journey of writing your book. And I'm going to bring Betsy in here, who's so quiet and calm. And can you tell us what it means to resolve? So RMACT, Reproductive Medicine Associates of Connecticut, bought 15. I'm holding the book, so here we go. Bought 15 copies. We're giving away 5 on Instagram and 5 on Facebook tonight. We're keeping 5 for our offices, and I'm actually going to ask that each of our team members read at least one of these stories. It really would be wonderful. What does it mean to resolve to get this kind of awareness and donation and support?
We are just so incredibly grateful to RMA Connecticut for buying the books, and to Sue for donating the proceeds to Resolve. Resolve is a charity, and we rely on donations from people and organizations, people like Sue, organizations and professionals like RMA of Connecticut, who want to help others on this journey. And we wouldn't exist if it weren't for, the support of the the family building community and, the patients and professionals joining together. We truly are stronger together, and the more that we support Resolve, we're supporting patients on their journeys and helping doctors to help their patients build families. And we just, again, are just so grateful for the support, and we appreciate the plug.
And I know that you mentioned before, Betsy, that demand for support groups is growing. And so when all other live in-house kind of events are dwindling, what do you think that's about? I mean, we've talked a lot about what the value is, but
Right.
How do you sort of accommodate these new groups?
Yeah, well, we rely on volunteers to help us. We actually have a group of volunteers, including Sue, who are going to help us in providing additional support to support group leaders. Resolve has a very lean staff, so we can't do it all, and we want to be able to provide support to the support group hosts. And we've got wonderful volunteers who, this is a point I've really wanted to make, is that when you volunteer to lead a support group or to get involved with Resolve or even just to participate in a support group, that helps give you back some of the control that infertility takes away from us. So it really is just another way of getting through this journey and giving back some of the control that you wouldn't otherwise feel you have.
I love that. I mean,
Exactly.
It's kind of a win-win-win-win-win. Keep on
So
winning.
true. So true.
So, Sue, why don't you tell us a little bit, take a few moments to tell us about the journey of writing your book.
Okay, well, it actually took about 5 years to get it all together. And this is my very first attempt at writing a book. I'm the anthologist and an author, and I really wanted to write the story for my son. And I just felt like my son, spoiler alert, I was unexplained infertility, and I did have a son, and he's 23 years old now. And I feel that his story is so unique, and I feel that I wanted to put it down in writing. And so when I was, talking with my other women that I knew that were my lifeline during the thick of my battle with infertility, and I was sharing about how, I would like to write my story. They, one girl chimed in and said, we always had these reunions. They all live in San Diego still, and I moved to Michigan, crazy girl that I am. But anyway, I would come back and they would say, well, we should write our story, or we should write a book. And so they nominated me because they know I like to write, and I enjoy literacy and whatnot, and I'm rather organized, and they asked me if I would lead the project, and I said certainly I would. So then it was like this big task. Well, now what did I get myself into? And I had a sorority alumni sister in college, a sorority sister in college. She was my big sis, and she was an editor. So I called Lindy and I talked to Lindy, and I learned about the different ways that one can publish a book now. I mean, you can go through a publishing company, or you could try to self-publish, and we just had to decide all of that. So every step of the way, we would have conference calls. I'd fly out to California for writers' workshops, and we collectively made the decision to self-publish. And so Lindy was our content editor, and she'd go through every chapter, forward and backward, looking for the grammar, looking for mistakes, spelling errors, and whatnot, punctuation, that kind of thing. And then after that process of filtering the written word, then we had to go to a copy editor who was helping us get our book into some kind of a format that we could have a continuity to our stories. And we came up with the idea of mantras, what kind of made us tick and what kind of made us think and feel inspired. So each one of our chapters ends with a quote, kind of like a hope quote, because there's hope strewn, like threads throughout the whole book. And so that kind of knit our chapters together. And the other thing we learned that we had to do to have continuity for a written book is to have some illustrations. And so one of my son's best friend, a good friend in college, was really into graphics art design, and she helped us with all the pictures and whatnot. So that's basically it in a nutshell. Oh, there you go. Yes, where's my bundle? Yes, in my chapter, each one of us got to pick our own. My chapter is the first chapter in the book. It's because my husband was a captain in the United States Navy. Yes, we used the ship's navigation wheels. Everybody has a different compass. And my chapter is called Never Tell a Navy Wife to Abandon Ship, because I never gave up on trying to have a baby. And my picture for my chapter is an anchor, and it has the little message woven through the line of the anchor. It says, "I refuse to sink." And so each one of us, that's kind of in a nutshell how it took, how the process evolved. And then finally we got it out on Amazon on March 11th, and we have very fortunately gotten some great legs with Detours, and we have been #1 on Amazon. It's a bestseller. Out of 7,500 books on Amazon, we have been #1. And we are probably in the top 2, 3, depending on how many people, buy the book. But right now, we're in the top of infertility books out there.
Well, bravo. My team is cheering. All thumbs up.
Thank you.
And if you are, we're going to be giving away the 5 books at random. We know that not everybody who is still in the throes of infertility wants to be identified. You can private message us at Facebook, which will not show anywhere. If you're interested in it, we're just going to give 5 books away at random. So private message us, we'll pick it up, and we're going to send out 5 books as gifts. And so thrilled. When I met Sue, it was at Advocacy Day, and I literally think I bumped into her.
Right. I think you were the first person I met when I was there.
Right, and immediately started chatting. We didn't know each other, didn't know who the other person was, immediately started chatting, and I knew really right then that we would have to do some work together.
Right.
Because really this is an extraordinary effort, and just a beautiful piece.
Thank you.
As I said, I think that what we're going to do is have one of our physicians, Dr. Mark Leonderos, who's the medical director here, I think that he probably might do a short Facebook Live tomorrow and do a little challenge. We bought 15 books. We want, and we kept 5 of them because we want our team to read them.
Right.
Because not everybody who works in a fertility clinic has experienced infertility.
That's true.
And there's something that you need to know about it to be able to be sensitive to the people that you're trying to help.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask each of you to do a takeaway message, and Betsy, I'll start with you. What do you want to leave the people who are listening with?
I think I'd like everyone to know about Resolve, resolve.org. Resolve is here to help you reach resolution. We want you to feel empowered by knowledge, supported by community, united by advocacy, and inspired to act.
Yeah, all together. It's all together in that message. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have to tell you, it is true. I'm going to say this number out loud. I started with Resolve 30 years ago. 30 years ago. It's not a joke. I can't even say 20-something, 30 years ago, and have been devoted to your organization ever since. It does extraordinary work, and Barbara Ekmening, the founder, really did an amazing thing when she started this group. Sue, what would you like to leave our listeners with?
Okay, very good. Well, I feel that I want to leave the listeners with hope. I want them to know that somehow, some way, someday, they're going to get through this, and there are going to be brighter days ahead for you. Not sure what that looks like, but you will get to the other side of your treatment in this infertility pain. And although it may be too difficult to talk about now, it may be too difficult to read about or what have you, I have a blog, I have a website, and I'd love you to reach out to me too. I'm here for you, and I want to provide a little bit of hope. So my website is just simply www.theinfertilityadvocate.com, and I would love to inspire hope in all who are watching this today.
I think those brighter days are very, very hard when you're on the roller coaster of infertility. It is very hard to believe that it will ever end,
Right.
and that brighter day will come. So it's a wonderful message. And my takeaway message truly is that, and I know this tagline gets used in a lot of different ways, and I'm glad that you're not alone, and that infertility is tough enough. There is no reason to do it by yourself. It is hard to pick yourself up and go to a group when really maybe all you want to do is kind of be by yourself and kind of, maybe lick your wounds. But it is incredibly, I'm going to say magical, that it is a magical thing that happens when a group of people who are experiencing infertility come together. And what's very interesting, our team is always surprised here. They kind of looked at Ladies' Night In as a place to go boo-hoo or complain about our team. And instead, the raucous laughter, they have had to close doors because patients are still, the raucous laughter and the camaraderie is truly an inspirational and magical thing. So Lisa Rosenthal from RMACT.com, I sound like an organization. That's our website, how to get in touch with us. And I just want to tell you, thank you so much, Sue. Thank you so much, Betsy, for your time, your energy, your tireless work. And thank you, everybody who popped on to listen. Love to everybody.
Thank you, Lisa. Without you, we wouldn't be here. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Awesome. Good night. Good night, everyone.
Good night.